I was kidnapped, and in my hazy consciousness, I heard the conversation between my wife and the kidnappers. Slash up his face, so he won't be able to compete with Nanzhou for the lead role in director Chen's new movie. The kidnapper chuckled. Rich people are truly ruthless. Once an actor's face is ruined, his career is over. Let it be over. I can still support him anyway. If he doesn't step aside, Nanzhou won't get the lead role. Break his leg too. Otherwise it'll be too obvious and raise suspicions. The cold blade cut through flesh, sending chills throughout my body. The pain was so intense I could barely breathe. What I thought was love and marriage turned out to be nothing but a joke. Make the cuts quick. Kidnappers can't be gentle. The wounds shouldn't look suspicious. For the leg, hit it multiple times to make it look like the kidnappers were angry and desperate after not getting the ransom. Shen Yan's cold words came through the phone. I was drugged, but perhaps because the kidnappers used low-quality drugs, I developed some immunity. So I regained consciousness, but my body was still weak, couldn't even open my eyes, could only lie helplessly on the ground at their mercy. The kidnapper kicked me hard several times, and I couldn't even cry out in pain. Miss Shen, are you satisfied just hearing this? Why don't we start a video call so you can see how I'm dealing with your husband? Shen Yan remained silent, and after a few seconds, a male voice came from the other end. Sister Nian, if it wasn't for Gu Jing introducing me to Lu Yan, letting her use her family's influence to force me to marry her, we would have been together long ago. He was so cruel to tear us apart. I want to see what he looks like now. It was Li Nanzhou, Shen Yan's childhood sweetheart and ex-boyfriend. The truth was he had been attracted to Lu Yan's family background, repeatedly asking me to introduce them, then skillfully winning her over and dumping Shen Yan without hesitation. Now here he was, completely twisting the truth. Shen Yan's voice was gentle and indulgent. All right, whatever you say. The kidnapper held up the phone to film me. Big boss, see this? This is your husband. We didn't kidnap the wrong person, did we? Shen Yan nodded. That's right. Stop wasting time, get on with it. My beloved wife, how eagerly she wants someone to destroy me. My heart was so numb with pain that I could barely feel the kidnapper's brutality. The cold blade pressed against my face. Miss Shen, are you sure? Once I make this cut, your husband's life will be ruined forever. Shen Yan looked at me through the screen, without a trace of affection. Who told him to compete with Nanzhou for that leading role? For Nanzhou, I'm willing to do anything. If it weren't for him, Nanzhou and I wouldn't have missed out on all these years, and Nanzhou's child wouldn't have had to be our. He gestured under his name, calling him father. Every time I see him being close with Xiao Xian, I feel sick. We should have been a happy family of 3, but he ruined everything. What does this mean? Isn't Xiao Xian my child? From Shen Yan's pregnancy to childbirth, I gave up work to accompany her through it all, only to find out it was Li Nanzhou's child. We've been married for 5 years, and I loved her to the point of humility. No matter how busy work was, I handled all household chores and never let her worry about the child. Just because Shen Yan said she felt uncomfortable seeing me get close to other women, I turned down all roles involving romance scenes, nearly halting my career. Director Chen's new film, which has potential for international awards and the male lead has no romantic scenes, was an opportunity one had to seize. Li Nanzhou is my junior in the entertainment industry, with acting skills and looks slightly inferior to mine. But because we're of the same type and have played similar roles, people call him Little Gu Jing. He's often ridden on my popularity, but could never surpass me. As long as I'm around, he could never get that leading role. But I never expected that in my lover's eyes, Li Nanzhou would be put on such a high pedestal, and she would go so far as to destroy me for him. A knife slashed across my face, and my legs were broken blow by blow. As excruciating pain struck, cold sweat broke out on my forehead. The intense pain allowed me to regain some control over my body. Gu Jing is about to wake up. Hang up the phone. Remember not to say what shouldn't be said, or I won't spare your family. Within seconds, I truly lost consciousness. When I regained consciousness, I was in the hospital. Shen Yan sat by my hospital bed, holding my hand, her eyes full of worry and care. Brother Jing, it was my oversight that I didn't realize you were kidnapped, which led to the kidnappers not getting the ransom and hurting you out of anger and humiliation. But don't worry, the kidnapper has been caught and will receive due punishment. The real kidnapper was right in front of my eyes. I tried to sit up, but with one movement, a sharp pain shot through my right leg. Shen Yan quickly supported me. It's okay, Brother Jing. I'll be your right leg from now on. I will take good care of you. I asked for a mirror, and looking at the scar that ran across my entire left face, I remained silent. My nose became a dividing line. The right side of my face was that of a perfect young master adored by countless fans, while the left side was a terrifying demon. Shen Yan grabbed the mirror and said with concern, Brother Jing, don't look anymore. No matter how you change, you'll always be the most handsome leading man in my heart. Now that I've become like this, The leading role in director Chen's new movie will definitely go to Li Nanzhou. Shen Yan did. And expect me to suddenly bring this up. She looked flustered for a moment before quickly regaining composure. Brother Jing, this can't be helped. Don't think about work now, just rest well. Her phone buzzed. When she checked the message, a sweet expression unconsciously appeared on her face. Brother Jing, I have something to attend to. When Xiaoxian gets out of school later, I'll have my secretary bring him here. Xiaoxian was a very naughty child who had caused plenty of trouble since he was little. I had to apologize to others for his mischief almost every week. She goes to meet her mistress, yet wants me, someone confined to a hospital bed, to watch her child. As soon as Xiaoxian came in, he threw his school bag on the hospital bed, hitting my injured leg. The pain was so intense I couldn't straighten my back. He laughed mischievously and reached up to touch the unhealed scar on my face. So you really did become disfigured. You're so ugly. Even uglier than the toad I caught today. I had countless times doubted whether I was truly unsuitable for teaching children. Otherwise, why would Xiaoxian still behave like this no matter how I taught him? Now looking at his features that resembled Li Nanzhou's, I finally understood. Some people are just inherently bad, and no amount of teaching can change that. His little hand restlessly picked at the scar on my face. Oh, it's bleeding now. My hand is all dirty because of you. You're so useless. I'm going to tell Mom to get rid of you. I grabbed his wrist and slapped him hard across the face. Noisy crying erupted in the hospital room. How dare you hit me? I'm going to tell Mom. She'll kick you out. I've always been against using violence on children. No matter how unreasonable he was, I kept my temper and tried to reason with him, even when I was met with his mockery. But now I don't want to hold back anymore. I scolded him harshly, frightening him into silence. Then I called the secretary to take him away. After the ward became quiet again, I opened my palm and looked at the strands of hair in it. The next day, when I received the paternity test results, I looked at the outcome. Although I had mentally prepared myself for this truth, it still hurt to see it right in front of me. On the day of discharge, I slowly made my way to the underground parking garage with my crutch. Shen Yan stayed protectively by my side. The hospital entrance was blocked by reporters and fans, so we had to sneak out through the underground parking garage. Shen Yan walked ahead a few steps to open the car door and wait for me. Several entertainment reporters rushed over with their cameras, completely disregarding my injuries, and started taking photos of my face aggressively. I raised my hands awkwardly to shield myself. Upon seeing this, Shen Yan quickly scolded them to make way and came over to help me. Her phone rang, and she answered it while supporting me with one hand. I was close enough to hear Li Nanzhou's voice on the other end. Sister Nian, everyone online is saying I'm not as good as Gu Jing, saying I only got selected by Director Chun because of his influence. I feel terrible. Could you come and stay with me? Shun Nian decisively let go of me, leaving me in the crowd. Brother Jing, I have something important to attend to. You can go back by yourself. Without looking back, she walked to her car, which quickly drove past me without any hesitation. The reporters roughly surrounded me, with microphones and cameras pointed at me. Unable to maintain my balance, I fell and sat on the ground. They continued to crowd around. Mr. Gu, can you tell us about how the kidnappers disfigured you? Mr. Gu, among so many people in the entertainment industry, why did the kidnappers specifically target you? Is your gentle Prince Charming image just a persona created by your company? Were you kidnapped because you offended someone with your diva behavior behind the scenes? Your wife is a big boss. Why didn't she pay the ransom to the kidnappers in time? She said she didn't see the phone message. Is that just an excuse? Is the real reason that your marriage is falling apart? And will you still renew your contract with her entertainment company? Mr. Gu, please answer my questions. In the end, it was my agent who came to help me into the car and drove through the crowd. But instead of taking me home, she brought me to a press conference. Brother Jing, you're signed under Ms. Shen's company, and I'm just an employee under her too. I can only follow her orders. Please don't blame me. Today is Director Chen's press conference to announce Li Nanzhou as the male lead for the new film. Everyone online is saying that if it weren't for your incident, Li Nanzhou would never have gotten this opportunity. Ms. Shen wants you to attend this press conference, act friendly with Li Nanzhou, praise him a lot, and change the netizens' impressions. She wants me to praise him, helping him fully establish his position as the male lead. This is truly a way to kill someone by striking at their heart. Brother Jing, this paper contains what President Shen wants you to say at the press conference. I advise you to comply and follow the script. Otherwise, you won't be able to afford the breach of contract penalty. When I first signed with Shen Yan, she offered me the best treatment and the highest penalty clause. Over these years, I've brought countless benefits to her company. Given my market value, I should be able to afford any breach of contract penalty. However, since marrying Shen Yan, I've been paying for everything at home. All social engagements, Xiao Xian's elite school fees, and those expensive private tutoring sessions. Including all the jewelry Shen Yan wears. Whenever she looks at something, I buy it and present it to her. My agent knows my situation, which is why they're so confident in saying I can't afford the breach of contract penalty. Walking through countless camera lenses, Li Nanzhou personally came down from the stage to welcome me, smiling while putting his arm around my shoulder. To look better in front of the camera and avoid suspicion, my agent put makeup on me to make me look healthier and took away my cane. But she didn't hide the scars on my face. Instead, she added shadows to make them look even worse. Brother Jing, these are all Mr. Shin's orders. I have no choice. Now every step I take sends sharp pain through my right leg. The reporter's attention is completely focused on me, their cameras all aimed at the scars on my face. Shin Yin is actually using my scars to pave the way for Li Nanzhou, showing no regard for my feelings at all. Shin Yin stands on the stage and speaks into the reporter's microphones. Brother Jing always told me how much he admired Nanzhou and hoped to be friends with him. When he learned that Nanzhou would be playing the lead role and heard the rumors online, he insisted on coming to clarify things for Nanzhou. Every word she says is like a sharp blade, piercing deep into my heart. The pain was no less intense than what the kidnappers had caused. Under the foundation makeup, my face looked increasingly pale. Li Nanzhou appeared to be supporting me normally, but he was actually dragging me, forcing me to put weight on my injured right leg. Cold sweat broke out on my forehead from the pain as I turned to face his smiling face. Shin Yin walked over with the microphone. Brother Jing, didn't you have something to say to everyone? I stared directly at her, at this person I had loved for 5 years. Shin Yin's eyes were evasive, but the microphone she held in front of me remained steady. She gestured for Li Nanzhou to step aside and came to support me herself, which made my right leg feel somewhat better. Shin Yin tenderly caressed my cheek. Brother Jing, you're injured now, and I'm really worried about you. Just say what you need to say quickly, then we can leave. The audience started cheering at our intimate interaction. Shin Yin blushed with embarrassment. My love faded away, and I found her pretentious act disgusting. I spoke into the microphone, reciting the words she wanted me to say without any emotion. I really admire Li Nanzhou's professional abilities. He's an excellent actor, and I'm genuinely happy that he will be starring in director Chen's film, as if I were starring in it myself. On the way back, Shin Yin kept speaking to me in a soft, coaxing manner. But my right leg was hurting badly, and the scar on my face was also aching due to lack of air. I leaned back in my seat, lacking the energy to respond to her words. Gu Jing, that's enough. You're a grown man. How long are you going to keep Su Laking? It's just helping Nanzhou by saying a few words. You're acting like you're being terribly wronged. If it weren't for you, Nanzhou wouldn't have to face all this mockery. You should help clear things up for him. I sneered and said in a low voice. If it weren't for me, he wouldn't have become famous in the first place. Shin Yin angrily kicked at me. You just got lucky debuting earlier than Nanzhou. Otherwise, he wouldn't be called Little Gu Jing. You'd be called Little Nanzhou. Her kick landed right on my wound. I couldn't hold back anymore and let out a cry of pain as my consciousness began to fade. Before completely falling into darkness, I heard Shin Yin anxiously calling my name. I must have heard wrong. How could she still care about me? In my hazy state, I could sense someone moving around me constantly. I must be in the hospital again. After a while, everything around me quieted down. Someone carefully wiped my face with a warm towel, their tender fingers combing through my hair and gently caressing the scars on my face. A warm sensation pressed against my scar, as if someone had kissed it. Who could it be, still willing to kiss someone who looks like this? When I opened my eyes, Shin Yin was looking at me with reddened eyes. I'm sorry, Brother Jing. I got emotional and accidentally hit your right leg. Yes, she got emotional just because I said one thing about Li Nanzhou. I turned my head away, not wanting to look at her anymore. Shin Yin panicked, grabbing my hand to slap her face. Brother Jing, it was my fault. You can hit me to vent your anger, just don't ignore me. I didn't pay attention to Shin Yin. There were plenty of others willing to pay attention to her. With just one call from Li Nanzhou, she left me behind. Several nurses outside the door watched Shin Yin's retreating figure and gossiped. Isn't she the boss of that big entertainment company? I recognize her. She came to our hospital to abort a child a few years ago, and then got pregnant again not long after. Really? Are you sure you're not mistaking her for someone else? I anxiously listened to the voices outside, a suspicion forming in my mind. That suspicion was too cruel. I hoped the nurse had indeed mistaken her for someone else. No mistake. I'm a fan and always follow entertainment news. I can recognize this female boss at a glance. On the day she came for the abortion, I was so excited I even posted about it on social media. About a month later, she got pregnant again. The interval was too short, and I was worried about her health at the time. However, she didn't terminate this second pregnancy. Her disfigured celebrity husband treasured her so much that he accompanied her to every prenatal checkup. Based on when we were intimate, it made sense that Xiao Xian was born a month premature, which was one of the reasons why I pampered him so much. But now I know Xiao Xian isn't my child, so there was no premature birth. However, The nurse said that Shen Yin had an abortion before having Xiao Xian, and that terminated pregnancy actually matches the timing of when we were intimate. I felt all strength leave my body, and the world seemed to spin around me. So I really did have a child before, but Shen Yin heartlessly terminated the pregnancy. She never even told me about it from beginning to end. I didn't even know that child had existed. Then she got pregnant with Li Nanzhou's child, replacing what should have been my child's place. All the love and care that should have been for my child, I gave to Li Nanzhou's child instead. I couldn't bear this truth, so I immediately called Shen Yin. The person who answered the phone was Li Nanzhou. Did Shen Yin have an abortion before? He paused for a moment, his tone full of mockery. You found out. Too late. Your child is long gone. I just said one thing, that I didn't want Sister Nian to have someone else's child, and the next day she got an abortion. Gu Jing, you're so pitiful. I'm not pitiful. I'm ridiculous. It's time to go, truly time to go. Li Nanzhou hung up the phone, deleted the call history, and put the phone back in its original place. He turned and went back to the bedroom, where Shen Yin was sitting on the bed. Li Nanzhou caressed Shen Yin intimately. Sister Nian, Lu Yin is away on business. We can be together these few days. Shen Yin felt inexplicably anxious. Where did you put my phone? Jing is still in the hospital. I'm worried something might happen to him. Suddenly, the secretary knocked on the door and shouted from outside. Chairman Shen, something terrible has happened. Gu Jing somehow sneaked out of the hospital and got into a car accident. He couldn't be saved. Shen Yin froze for a moment, walking towards the door in a daze. Li Nanzhou called out to stop her. Miss Shen, don't worry. How could a perfectly healthy person suddenly die? Besides, with so many nurses and doctors in the hospital, how could they lose track of a patient? Maybe Mr. Gu is just putting on an act to get your attention. Shen Yin suddenly snapped back to reality. Right? Nothing could have happened to Gu. It must be an act. She became furious and shouted at the secretary outside the door. Go back and tell Gu Jing that I'll visit him when I have time. Stop using these ridiculous tactics. The secretary tried to explain repeatedly, but Shen Yin wouldn't listen and even smashed a ceramic ornament. Get out. Stop trying to fool me with these lies. You're my secretary, not Gu Jing's. How much did he pay you to help him lie? Seeing the situation, the secretary gave up, shook her head, and left. After this incident, Shen Yin completely lost interest and pushed Li Nanzhou away as she left. She returned to our shared home and decided to teach me a lesson by not visiting me. In the hospital, she wanted me to apologize properly when I returned, and then she would decide whether to forgive me for teasing her. 3 days later, when I still hadn't returned, she impatiently called my secretary. Isn't Gu Jing discharged yet? Tell him not to be so delicate. There are rumors about him flying everywhere right now. The longer he stays in the hospital, the more outrageous the stories become. I even saw people saying online that he died. Tell him to get discharged quickly. A weak voice came from the other end of the phone. Ms. Shun, Mr. Gu has indeed passed away. I'm currently organizing his funeral. You were his wife after all. Please come to bid him a final farewell. Shen Yin still didn't believe it, cursed at the secretary, but eventually went to the address provided. As soon as she entered and saw the white cloths all over the room, Shen Yin went crazy, tearing down all the hanging white cloths. Who allowed you to hang these ominous things? I said Gu Jing is not dead. He's not dead. The secretary blocked her. Miss Shun, Mr. Gu suffered enough when he was alive. I beg you, please don't ruin his funeral. He was such a famous actor before. Can't you let him keep his last bit of dignity? Shen Yin kicked the secretary aside and rushed towards the coffin in the middle of the memorial hall, pushing open its lid. You're all lying to me. Gu Jing must have paid you to deceive me. Whatever he paid you, I'll give you 10 times more. Tell him to come out and see me. With a dull thud, the coffin lid fell to the ground. Shen Yin peered inside and froze instantly. The body inside was badly burned in the car accident, face beyond recognition. But the scars on the face, the twisted right leg, and the decorations on the body made it easy to identify that the corpse lying here was me. Shen Yin lost all strength and collapsed to the ground. Impossible, impossible, it's not Jingji. Jingji isn't dead. He wouldn't leave me behind. The secretary stepped forward. Miss Shun, you've seen him now. Please let us take Mr. Gu for cremation. Shen Yin got up from the ground and held onto the coffin tightly. No, you can't burn it. Brother Jing isn't dead. Call a doctor. Get a doctor to save him. Ms. Shun, the secretary shouted. Mr. Gu has suffered so much, endured so much pain. How can you let him not even be properly buried? Shen Yin glared and shouted. He's not dead. Those who can't be properly buried won't even have a chance to reincarnate. They can only become wandering spirits. Shen Yin suddenly burst into tears and slowly let go. After arranging for people to take the body to the crematorium, the secretary said softly, Ms. Shun, pull yourself together. Maybe there's something suspicious about Mr. Gu's death. Don't you want to investigate? These words made Shen Yin pull herself together, and she ordered people to check the hospital's survey. Lance footage. I was in such a hurry when I left that I dropped my phone at the hospital, and it was brought to Shen Yin. When did Brother Jing call me? It shows a 6-minute conversation, but I didn't receive any call from him today. Go, bring Li Nanzhou here. While waiting for Li Nanzhou, the hospital's surveillance footage had been organized. Shen Yin pointed at the nurses standing outside my hospital room in the surveillance footage. I need to know what they were saying outside Jing's room. Ms. Shun, there's something else. The secretary hesitantly handed Shen Yin a paternity test report. Ms. Shun, we just found out that during Mr. Gu's hospitalization, he had requested a paternity test with Xiao Xian. The results show that Xiao Xian is not Mr. Gu's child. Shen Yin's legs suddenly went weak, and she collapsed to the ground in distress. She tore up the report in self-denial, shaking her head in refusal to accept it. Impossible. How could Jing know? Why would he suddenly think of doing a paternity test? No, Jing doesn't know, he doesn't know. The subordinate walked over. President Shen, we found out that those nurses were talking about your abortion at the hospital a few years ago. According to the timeline, after they discussed this, Mr. Gu called you, and after a few minutes of conversation, Mr. Gu left the hospital room looking very upset. With one incident after another piling up, Shen Yin could no longer pretend to be ignorant. She broke down in tears. Jing, you found out, didn't you? You know we had a child before, and I cruelly abandoned that child, letting Li Nanzhou's bastard take our child's place. Jing, you won't forgive me now, will you? You don't want me anymore. Her whole body trembled as she wept uncontrollably. If I hadn't arranged for someone to break your legs during the car accident, would you have been able to run faster? Would you have been safe? How could I be so insane? How could I harm you so severely? I'm the one who deserves to die. Jing, you're such a good person. You should be alive and well. Li Nanzhou was brought in, his eyes gleaming as he looked at the memorial hall. He suppressed his excitement and pretended to be sad while comforting Shen Yin. Sister Yin, there's nothing we can do about this situation. Gu Jing wouldn't want to see you so heartbroken either. Shen Yin glared at him like she wanted to devour him. Jing called me today. The call lasted 6 minutes, and after the call, he ran out of the hospital emotionally distraught. But I never received that call. I've been with you all day. You took that call. What did you say to Jing? Li Nanzhou shook his head innocently. I don't know anything about a phone call. Maybe the phone was malfunctioning. Shen Yin gave a cold laugh. I've been deceived before, so after that, I set up automatic call recording on my phone. Even if the call history is deleted, the recordings remain. Li Nanzhou's expression instantly froze. Shen Yin waved her hand, and her secretary knowingly took out the phone, found the recording, and pressed play. Li Nanzhou's mocking voice came from the recording. Gu Jing, do you know why Sister Yin married you? Because you look like me. Your fans call me Little Gu Jing, but to Sister Yin, you're the substitute. I really should thank you. All these years, you've taken care of my lover and raised my child with all your heart. Haha. In the end, nothing belongs to you. Even your baby was taken away by Shen Yin. You poor wretch, you have nothing. As Li Nanzhou's voice played in the recording, Shen Yin's back bent lower and lower. She was completely hunched over, lying on the ground. With trembling fingers pointing at Li Nanzhou, Shen Yin looked like a demon crawling up from hell. You killed Brother Jing. I won't let you get away with this. I'll send you down to accompany him. The people Shen Yin brought surrounded Li Nanzhou, waiting for orders. Li Nanzhou panicked and shouted. Think carefully, Shen Yin. Gu Jing is already dead, but I can still bring you benefits. I'm about to star in Director Chen's film. I can sign under your company, and I'll become more famous than Gu Jing. Lu Yin is just away on a business trip now. Her influence is beyond what you can match. If you dare to touch me, she will definitely kill you. Shen Yin suffered severe physical and mental trauma due to my death. She cared for nothing else and wanted nothing else but to make Li Nanzhou pay the price. Seeing that he couldn't persuade Shen Yin, Li Nanzhou simply gave up trying. What right do you have to take revenge on me? All of this was caused by you. It was you who indulged me, hurting Gu Jing time and time again for my sake. It was you who made me think that even if I caused Gu Jing's death, it wouldn't matter because you didn't care about him. Shen Yin, why are you pretending to be deeply in love now? It's disgusting. If Gu Jing saw you like this, he would only feel sick. I never forced you to do anything. I just had to frown in front of you, and you would rush to please me. I just said one word, and you aborted Gu Jing's child and shamelessly climbed into my bed, carrying my child. I did nothing wrong. You're the one who's wrong. Shen Yin thought of my broken right leg and began to regret. If she hadn't ordered someone to break my leg, would I have been able to run faster when the car accident happened? Would the accident have been avoided? She recalled that press conference and the way I looked at her then. Yes, I was the one who was wrong. Brother Jing, were you already disappointed in me back then? But I didn't even notice. You were so disappointed in me, weren't you? Shen Yin closed her eyes tightly. But Li Nanzhou, you're not innocent either. I won't let anyone who hurt Brother Jing get away. If it. Shen Yin signaled her subordinates to take Li Nanzhou away, Don't dirty Brother Jing's place. Soon, sounds of beating and screaming came from outside. Don't worry, Brother Jing. I know I'm the real culprit, and I won't let myself off either. Wait for me. After I've atoned for my sins, I'll come find you and our child. I was unaware of the bloody storm on Shun Yan's side, just immersed in my self-cultivation. My parents passed away early, leaving me with some antiques. I treated those as my parents' relics, keeping them safe as mementos, not wanting to use them carelessly. Even when Shun Yan threatened me with liquidated damages, I never thought about touching those antiques. But the incident with the child completely broke through my psychological defenses. I was utterly shattered by Shun Yan, though I still had a slight will to live. I contacted someone to sell those antiques, hired people to find a corpse with an injured right leg, and staged a car accident, all to completely leave Shun Yan's world. I moved to a small town abroad. The money from selling the antiques was enough to support me for the rest of my life, so I didn't plan to work for a while. I built a small tombstone to commemorate the unborn child. Each day, I walk around the town, persist with rehabilitation, grow some flowers and plants, and care less and less about the scars on my face. Since I decided to start over, I must heal myself. After 6 months of peaceful life, Shun Yan suddenly appeared before me, disheveled. Brother Jing, you're really alive. I've finally found you. I stepped back, avoiding her embrace. Miss, you've got the wrong person. She began to cry, tears falling one by one. In the past, I would have held her lovingly, willing to give her my whole heart. But now, I remain unmoved by her tears. Shun Yan said miserably, Brother Jing, I know I was wrong. I killed Li Nanzhou, and when Lu Yan found out, she took revenge on me. From her mouth, I learned that it was Li Nanzhou who actively seduced her, not something you planned at all. I was so foolish. I actually believed Li Nanzhou's words. How could I not trust Brother Jing? Brother Jing is the person I love most. A hint of ruthlessness flashed in her eyes. Brother Jing, Li Nanzhou suffered greatly before he died. He owed you, and I made him pay for it. I had planned to go down and accompany you, but suddenly I received news that you might not be dead. Someone saw a person abroad who looked very much like you, so I came looking. She was both excited and overjoyed. Lu Yan has ruined all my business, but Brother Jing, don't worry. Her influence can't reach overseas, and I'll make a comeback soon. When that time comes, I'll help you become a world-class actor, Brother Jing. No one will be able to steal your spotlight. I ignored her and turned back into the house. She stayed outside my house for the next few days, refusing to leave no matter how many times I tried to drive her away. Several neighbors contacted me, asking if I was in some kind of trouble. I was living comfortably in this small town and didn't want to move again, so I had to find a way to make Shun Yan leave. For the first time, I opened my door to her and invited her in. Shun Yan was dirty and disheveled, hesitating at the doorway, not daring to enter. She looked at me cautiously. Brother Jing, are you letting me in because you've forgiven me? No, I just want to talk with you. If you don't want to come in, we can talk here at the door. She nodded dejectedly. I don't dare to go in. I'm afraid I'll dirty your place. If you know that, why don't you leave? Shun Yan's eyes immediately welled up with tears, and she choked. I want to atone for my sins. I love you, Brother Jing. I truly love you and can't live without you. I know I went too far, but I still want to win you back. Brother Jing, can you give me a chance to redeem myself? I'll do anything. I was deceived by Li Nanzhou. He tricked me. I sighed and brought up the past that I didn't want to mention. Shun Yan, I heard when the kidnappers called you. Shun Yan trembled all over and couldn't say another word. At that time, I was drugged by the kidnappers and couldn't wake up physically, but my mind was conscious. I heard with my own ears how you told the kidnappers to destroy my face and break my legs. Li Nanzhou even asked you to open a video call, and you watched as I was tortured by the kidnappers. Shun Yan's face turned whiter than the wall beside her, her hands trembling uncontrollably, looking completely devastated. I continued. So, Shun Yan, how can I continue to be with you? Leave, get out of here. I finally managed to start a new life. I'm begging you. You've ruined me once. Please don't ruin me a second time. She turned around in a daze and walked away step by step. That was the last time I saw her. A week later, a neighbor shared some gossip with me. Did you know that there was a shootout yesterday not far from here? Indeed, the safety level abroad isn't high enough. Someone died too, an Asian woman. I heard she looked like a homeless person, didn't seem like a tourist. What a pity. My hand paused, then continued.